Good afternoon, Flosstube, and a happy new year. I'm Caroline from Leeds in West Yorkshire. This will be my floss video number 8, and I'm afraid it's been a little while since I've had a chance to record. Life for the back end of last year was just crazy busy, and my daughter had a dance show. I'm sure I don't need, for those of you who've been dance mums, are dance mums, I'm sure I don't need to say any more than that. Took up for most of November. So this video will sort of be a wrap up of last year, talk about what I've been doing, what I've achieved, and what I'm planning to do in 2020. We'll see if I manage to do that or not. Right, as I said, I'm Caroline. I can be found around the internet on mostly Twitter or Instagram, where my Twitter handle is, and Instagram handle is Caroline A. Kemp, and it's Caroline spelled with a K, but I will put all that information in the show notes, which can be found on my blog, which is carolinescorner.blogspot.com. Anyway, so thank you very much to those of you who are returning viewers and subscribed. If you're new, I hope you like what you see and you'll hang around. Anyway, so on to what I've been up to. I have, in my last video, I had started Tombstone Angel by Kelmscott Designs for Dark October stitching, and I managed to get it finished and fully finished by the end of October. This little kit came with the chart and the backboard, the angel backboard, and the trim for round the side, and I used a little bit of Pearlized Barley Legacy 40 count linen and Cranberry Gloriana to stitch the alphabets. I was very happy to get that one done. It's been in my stash and I bought it when it came out. Predates the children, I think, so there we go. So that was one down. That was my new start for October. My new start for November was the Christmas ornament for my daughter. I stitch a Christmas ornament for both of my children every year. I give them a copy of one of my Just Cross Stitch magazines and ask them to choose something. So both of their ornaments this year came from the 2011 ornament edition. My daughter chose this ornament by Raise the Roof Designs, which is Teresa of Kitten Stitcher and Susie Reno, and it's called The Best Part. And so the best part of a gift is the box, which we've thoroughly subscribed to in this house, having a ginger cat, not unlike that one I stitched, which is I think why my daughter chose that one. So it's stitched on a cut of Picture This Plus in, I think, Heritage, with the called for DMCs from the chart that were charted in the magazine. So I started this in November and got it finished just after Christmas. The stitching got finished sort of at the beginning of December, and I got it finished into an ornament just after Christmas. Used some cute little cardinal fabric on the reverse. So that was my daughter's ornament. And then for my December new start was the ornament for my son, and he chose this ornament called Wise-Eyed Owl by Imaginating, again from the 2011 Just Cross Stitch magazine.
This is stitched on perforated paper with, again, with the called for DMC. It's quite a cute finish, but I didn't overly enjoy stitching it. I don't particularly care for stitching on perforated paper, but it did make the finishing very, very easy. So just stick a bit of paper, Christmas papers on the back, scrapbooking paper, but he was very pleased with it. I think he likes googly eyes. So there you go. So that's 3. So they both got fully finished and have made it onto the tree before the tree comes down this weekend, which it will be doing tomorrow. I have several other finishes that aren't fully finished yet. I finished, you remember I wasn't too far off finishing my Forget-Me-Not sampler by With Nice Needle and Thread, Brenda Gervais. This was a market exclusive back in 2013 that I bought at the time and was sitting in my stash. So I started it, I think, about March last year, and then finished it off just towards the end of November. This is my first attempt at coffee dyeing fabric, because that's the first thing Brenda has you do in the instructions, and so it's stitched on the fabric that came as a kit with all the fabric and the Weeks Dye Works threads, so it's stitched in those. Very pleased to have that thing. I think I will be framing it, but I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, that was the box it came in. Brenda's finished. So very glad to get that one done. Other piece I finished was Little Just Nan called Tiny Tweel Heart, which again was a market exclusive from 2002. This is just on a random bit of white linen from my stash with the thread that came with the chart, which I think is a thread gatherer silk. I think she put them out in 3 different colours, and the one I picked up had the green silk. It has, if you can see this, a little charm to go in the middle, a Swarovski crystal charm, which I will put on when I do the finishing. I know how I'm going to finish this one because I've got this little, picked up one of these little frames which it just fits nicely, so I'm going to frame it in. They came from our local supermarket, so hopefully I can get that finished in the next month or so. And my other finish was I was working on a little set of fobs that we were gifted at a class by Jackie Duplessis of It's Finally Finished. Little kit to make with some banding to make a thread floss fob and a scissor fob. And again, I have finished stitching on both of them. Again, stitched in silk, and so the banding came with the kit. So again, now I've just got to get them finished, which hopefully won't take me too long when I get a chance to sit down. I have been doing some work, had a bit of time over the holidays, but what I've been working on is quilting, a quilt that I've got on the go for my son, because I'm getting nattered as to why it's not finished yet. Well, that would be because I don't get much time to sit down and do quilting and things. So so yes, so hopefully shortly in the new year I can
carve out a bit of time to finish those as well. So, and I have one other fully finished object. You may remember earlier this year I finished Home of a Needleworker 2. Well, I discovered that it fit very nicely into this frame, which I picked up again from a local supermarket and so managed to have that framed, and it's standing in my dining room. It's my dining room beautifully. So very, very pleased to have that one done and off the pile and onto the list, the fully finished list. Not done too badly for finishes this year. I managed to finish 10 projects. I managed one which was one of my big ones, which was the Take a Lovely Sampler set of smalls, which is still waiting finishing. So I will hopefully get around to that soon. The rest are all fair, you know, a couple of medium-sized projects with Home of a Needleworker and the Forget-Me-Not sampler. You know, the others were pretty small. I didn't finish my 2 big projects that I'd hoped to, but that's fine. That's just life, the way life is. So very pleased to have 10 finishes. I actually have managed to FFO. Cat's come to see you. Well, you can say hello to Flosstube. This is Florence, for those who haven't met her before. She's my stitch buddy. I've actually FFO'd 11 things this year because I had a pile of ornaments that I got done at the start of the year for the last 2 years. Anyway, I did participate in the Stitch 9. I managed 6 of my projects that I finished were part of the Stitch 9. The 3 that I didn't get to were Dorothy Walpole and Scottish Sampler coming up, and again I put Christopher's quilt in that. I am 90% of the way finished with the quilting on his quilt, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll get on to the binding and then it will be done, and then I will have a happy small boy. So there you go. Right, I'm going to pause this video now. Just rather than have piles of stuff that gets knocked over all the time, I'm going to try and film this in instalments. So I shall pause this bit now and then go and get the next lot of stuff. Right, I've got myself sorted. So next up is on to whips. The first whip is, of course, the beauty that is Dorothy Walpole. This is, for those of you who haven't seen it on every video I've done so far yet, is by the Scarlet Letter. I started this as a stitch along on a Facebook group through Sampler World, I think, about 2014-15. Either way, there's a new sale running on Facebook for Dorothy starting this January, and I shall probably be joining it again with that one just so I can get her done. Right, let's see if I can get her all in. She's a big girl, is Dorothy. So this is where I'm up to so far. I am on to, so there's the big flower motifs down the bottom, and I've got 2 of them done. I'm on to the 3rd. So I can't remember where I was last time, but I think I was working on these motifs. So I've done all of these. I made a start on that one there. I'm stitching Dorothy on 40 count pearlized barley from Italian Linen from Lakeside Linen. Now this is from very, very deep stash, so I doubt it's available anymore. the linen predates my children by a good few years. My oldest is 11, so that should give you an idea. And I'm using the called for DMC for this. So I shall be back to working on Dorothy again tomorrow, next week, and then I'm hoping I can make a good chunk of this flower motif done. Next, my other major piece that I'm working on at the moment is the Scottish sampler 1757. This is the sampler that's charted in the cover of the Goodhart sampler book from Needleprint. If any of you, unfortunately it's now out of print after Jacqueline retired, but I was fortunate enough to go to the launch seminar at Aqua School, which is just up the road from me, when, I think 10 years ago when they launched this book, yes, because my daughter was a baby and she came along with me occasionally. So this is the sampler, because there obviously isn't a cover picture for it, and the chart is in the dust jacket of the book. So I'm working on this big black work motif down the bottom. Very pleased with the progress that I've made on this one this year. At the beginning of the year I was just starting the box of motifs on here, so I don't actually have that much left to do, really. I don't think. Since you last saw it, I've been filling in. I think I was working on this white flower here, and I filled in a lot of this sort of caterpillar-y type motif and got another flower in, or I'm in the process of putting another flower in. So hopefully can make this particular band of it will get finished fairly soon, and I shall certainly, it's one of my goals for this year is to finish that one off. It's also to finish Dorothy, but we shall see how we get on that one, because I don't get, it's a good stitching week if I get more than 5 or 6 hours worth of stitching in, because when I'm at weeks I'm at work, I get a little bit more in on the on the college holidays, because I don't tend to, we're so busy with the kids, I tend to knit during the week and then stitch Friday through Monday when I've got the headspace to do that. The other one that I was working on the run up to Christmas, quite getting finished, was Pomegranate Santa. Don't have too much to go on this. I really don't have too much to go on this one. I've just got the tree to finish and a couple of snowflakes. This is the chart by the design is by Plum Street Samplers. Again, I'm hoping I can finish this one this year. Well, I should be able to finish this one this year. Just have something else I want to do first. It's stitched using crescent colours. I've got a mix of classic colourworks and crescent colours, just depending what my LNS had in stock when I bought them. I do like the nice rich red. The red currant is rapidly becoming a favourite red of mine. And I'm stitching this on a piece of vintage light exemplar from 36 count by Lakeside Linens that I had in my stash. So yeah, so that's finishing this one is also part of my plans for this year. So on the 1st of every month I try and have a new start, especially when it's the 1st of the year. So this year I've actually tried to plan my starts out. So rather than thinking on the last week of the month, oh, I need a new start, and just pulling something out at random, I've actually gone through and thought, right, I really want to start this, this and this. So I have a list, and you'll see them hopefully during the year. So my new start for January the 1st was, as I'd finished Tiny Tweel Heart, I didn't have a Just Nan on the go, and I had quite a very large Just Nan stash. Mostly her older stuff, and newer stuff doesn't really speak to me so much. I dug this kit that I bought from the Silver Needle way back when. This is 2004 is this one. It's called And Many More, and it's the companion piece to a needle book called 20 Flowers that Nan designed for their 20th anniversary, which is almost 20 years ago now. And so I've had the this needle book to go with the scissor fob. I finished the scissor fob last year, a year before. Can't remember. I stitched it in 2012, and I think I did the finishing last year. I'd have to check. So I decided it was time it got started. So I got a nice start on the first. I think you can see it better. I'm going to try again because my phone died partway through recording the last bit. I recall talking about And Many More, the shop exclusive from Just Nan, and here's where I got to on the 1st of January. So not bad for just one night stitching. It's being stitched on the linen that came in the kit with Splendor silks and one thread gatherer silk. Very much Nan's colours there. Beautiful palette, and it's lovely to stitch with the Splendor for a change. I mentioned before that this was a companion piece to a scissor book called 20 Flowers that Nan designed for the Silver Needles 20th anniversary, and this is my 20 Flowers scissor case that I stitched. I stitched it back in (2012). Did the finishing I think last year. I have the finishing kit. I got the finishing kit for this one at the time I bought the kit, and I have the finishing kit for And Many More as well. So I worked on that on the 1st of January, and then I started my rotation for this year. The main reason I'm not going to be finishing Pomegranate Sampler straight away is I want to work on Emblem of Love. As I said in my last video, because this was the new start I showed in my last video, it's my silver wedding anniversary this year, and I want to stitch Emblem of Love for my to commemorate the event. And so I will go back to Pomegranate Santa once I've stitched this one. This is the where I'm up to. There's a couple of days stitching, so I've finished the outline of this motif down the bottom and made a start on the tree. So I'll work on that tonight, and then on Sunday I shall switch over to Dorothy Walpole. So my rotation for
before I talk about my rotation for this year, I'll just show you. I'm stitching this in some hand-dyed silks by Vicky Clayton because I got a silk kit. So they're not all on the thread drops yet, so it's the silks I've used. And these are the ones I've still got to start, which is all the pinks and the blues and the greens and the black. There we go. Which should give it a really nice muted palette, and it's being stitched on some 32 count vintage Lunar, I think, by Lakeside Linens that I've had in my fabric stash for a long time. My fabric stash is mostly from when I was in Silk Weaver's Fabric of the Month Club back in the early 2000s. So a lot of the I've got a lot of hand-dyed fabric, mostly 28 or 32 count. I'd be quite surprised if a lot of the colours are still available, just because I've had them so long. So that's where I'm up to so far. So I started talking about my rotation. So I'm going to have 3 pieces in rotation. Emblem of Love until it's finished. Then Scottish Sampler and Dorothy Walpole in order to get them finished. So yeah, I'll swap them out on a Sunday night and work on one for a week and then put it away and move on to the next one. So in each of those we're going to get worked on until they're done. So I may or may not finish Dorothy this year. I'm very hopeful I will finish Scottish Sampler this year. And when I finish the Scottish Sampler, because that was a class piece, we got given the kit when, as I said, when I went to Aqua for the launch of the Good Heart Samplers book. Back in 2008, I'm going to pull out another class kit. This time it's one from 2006, which I want to get finished because it's my oldest one. It's a kit by C.A. Wells. It was the 10th anniversary class she did for Susan at Hanging by a Thread down in London that I went to. It's called Three-Sided Reticule. I've got a very small start on this, and so since I've been working on it since, I've got 2 of the panels done for the reticule. I made a start on the 3rd. So that's my plan once I finish the Scottish Sampler, is to get on, because my experience tells me that once I actually get cracking with one of CA's projects, the stitching part doesn't take too long. Finishing, on the other hand, because her finishing instructions are at best sketchy on her very later designs, maybe something else altogether, but I do want to get it stitched. I'm aiming to stitch my way through my class kits because I have quite a lot of them, and get them done, and I want to they're either sets of smalls or they're samplers, so I'm going to alternate between a sampler and a set of smalls, and hopefully try and get one of each done every year, but we shall see how we go. Now, on the off chance that I finish Dorothy this year, the next project that's going to go into the large sampler slot is my Landmark Tapestries stained glass sunflower, because I started this back in 2001 and it really needs to be finished by now. So I've got a fair chunk of it done. I just need to crack on. I started it and then got suckered into cross stitch, so it needs to get finished and off the whip pile. So yeah, if I finish Dorothy, that's what I'm going to do next. Hopefully I will get Dorothy finished if I can actually get focused. And obviously once I finish Emblem of Love, then I'll just go back to Pomegranate Sampler and then work my way through some of the smaller designs I started last year, and see how far I get. But my only definite goals so far are to finish
finish the 3 projects I'm working on at the moment. So there's a Renoir ball of wool there. So while I'm still on stitching, in the last couple of months I have got a little bit of stash. So first one was a real treat to myself, was the Willing Hands book that Inspirations put out of Betsy Morgan's designs. Love her stuff. I've not actually stitched it, and unfortunately the few times that she did come and teach in the UK I wasn't able to go, so I've never had the chance to take a class with her. I'm never going to now she's retiring, but I'm very, very glad to have the book because there are some beautiful designs in here. Shows them all there, and so hopefully one day I might get some of them stitched. As well as the book, I also treated myself to Grateful, Thankful and Blessed by Brenda Gervais of With Thy Needle and Thread, because I'd seen a few people stitching it on Instagram and Flosstube and loved it, so I thought, ooh, so that got done. Then I also in November treated myself to Agnes Horsburgh 1844. I was just having a browse on Patchwork Rabbit and saw that and loved it, because I had ordered the Christmas ornament edition for this year from them. I know some people don't rate them nowadays, but I quite enjoy them. I don't usually find enough to make it worth buying it to stitch, and I think it's a great way of finding some new designers. I also got myself a copy of this year's Whitney Antiques catalogue, as they were doing as their exhibition this year was Samplers, the Educated Stitch. I really recommend, if you are into antique needlework, the Whitney catalogues if you can get hold of them, because I've not ever managed to make it to one of their exhibitions, but their catalogues are wonderful, with detail of the beautiful pictures of the samplers and some accompanying text by, it's Rebecca who writes them now, and definitely worth getting hold of. Here's some Bristol orphanage samplers. And then for Christmas I got a couple of charts. I got Needlework Press's In All Things Be Exceedingly Diligent, which I've been after for a while, and Hands Across the Seas, Jane Bannister, 1855 sampler, which I've been after for the cats, really had to be done, and I may get around to that at some point. It won't be this year. But, right, I think that was stitching, and now we're on to knitting. If you remember in my last video, I'd had a cast on party, so obviously there's nothing's finished, but I can show you where I'm up to on my projects. First one is the Sinister Cattigan by Anne Catherine Begg. I've massacred the Gaelic there, Marna Gilligan. I'm knitting this for Rosie, for my daughter. She wanted it in the same colours as the model. So when we were at Yarndale, we went yarn shopping, and we chose yarn from We Country Yarns, their Kinross 4-ply. So the grey is granite, the white is quartz, and the pink colour is orchid. And as you can see, I've got all the cats done. They're sitting there judging me terribly, and I'm in the process of dividing for the sleeves. So next time I pick this up, I'll be onto the body for this. Rosie has very much enjoyed watching my progress through knitting the cats. My current pair of socks that's on the needles is the Shell Cottage socks by Helen Stewart of Curious Handmade. I'm knitting them in a very un-Curious Handmade colourway. She always knits hers in such lovely soft shades, and I'm knitting them in this Knitting Goddess yarn from her Back to the Discworld Club from 2016. It's called the Dark Morris. However, when I was knitting them up, it wasn't obvious in the skein or the ball so much, but when I got and it started self-striping, I was looking at it going, and my son took one look at them and said, they're Ronnie the Rhino socks. Ronnie the Rhino is the mascot of our local rugby league team, and the Leeds Rugby League. They're called the Leeds Rhinos, and both them and Leeds United play in yellow and blue kit, and the grey is what made him call it Ronnie the Rhino, and actually grey is Leeds United's away colour team strip, and I'm very sure that will not have been the effect that Joy was looking for when she dyed this yarn. And last but not least is my shawl. It's the floating shawl again by Helen Stewart of Curious Handmade. This was in the Shawl Society for this year, Shawl Society 4, it was the second one. The Shell Cottage socks were in this year's Sock Society. So I'm making incredibly good progress on this shawl. I am down to the lace border, just started the lace border. I've done the last set of increases and I'm onto the lace at the bottom. However, as I'm now juggling 500 plus stitches on this, as it's a pie shawl, you can see, each row is taking forever, but it's coming up beautifully. The yarn I'm using for this is Giddy Yarns that I bought at the Leeds Wool Fair, and it's their Giddy sock in the High Tide colourway. Very much enjoying knitting this, and hopefully it won't be too long before it's finished. And my plans for this year, as far as the knitting goes, is to finish the cardigan for my daughter and see about casting one on for myself. Sweaters generally take me the best part of a year to knit, because hers aren't that much smaller than mine these days. To knit, so to get 3 shawls off the needles. When I finish this one, I think my next shawl is going to be like the Swale shawl by Carrie Westerman from the Eden Cottage Yarns Drift collection. I've had the yarn for it, the Whitfell, is it Whitfell DK or Milburn DK? Can never remember. I've had that in my stash since the book was launched 4 years ago. So I really want to get that done, and then it'll probably be another Helen Stewart shawl. As far as the socks go, because I don't knit on them, I only knit on them when I'm out and about. I just aim to finish those socks and get another set cast on. And that's about it really as far as knitting goes. Just keep plugging away at it. I have a few other goals around my reading. I'd like to try and get up to 52 books this year. I managed 40 last year, but I did read a few that have been hanging around on my to read pile for the best part of 20 years and took a while. I want to finish Christopher's quilt, as I've previously mentioned. The boy is nattering me about it. I'd like to try and do some dressmaking for myself if I get a chance, but we shall see. I managed over 1,000 miles on my bike last year, so it would be really nice to. I want to try and do that again, do more commuting to work, but we shall see whether life allows me that. But other than that, I think I'm going to finish the video here because I had to take a break because my phone died. It's not the youngest and the battery cuts out very suddenly sometimes. So thank you all for watching. If you've stuck with me this long, I'll put the show notes in the box below. I think this has been I'm a bit rusty with doing this, so I need to get back into the swing of things. So thank you for watching. I really do appreciate everyone's comments and likes, and I will hopefully see you again at the beginning of February, but I won't promise anything. We'll see how we go. Anyway, so take care, have a great new year. I hope you all had a good holiday, whatever holiday you celebrated, and I'll see you again soon.